This is Health and Fitness Redefined, brought to you by Redefine Fitness. Hello and welcome to Health and Fitness Redefined. I'm your host, Anthony Amen, and today we got another great episode for all of you today. Little life updates, like always. Last week, I kind of dropped the news. If you haven't listened to that episode, totally ripped my chest in half. So bench ego lifting, as we know, not the way to go. Something I preach on the show all the time, and yet sometimes you just get it your own way. But it's all right. It's showed me that, even the mighty can fall, and the best way to recovery is to stay active, keep moving. We're like 24 days post-op at this point. I'm sleeping pain-free. I've been pain-free for 2 weeks already, and I'm supposed to only get like 5% flexion in my shoulder, and I'm at 40% active. So totally cruising through this, and a lot of lessons I've relearned along the way, and really solidified to myself that fitness is truly a form of medicine. And instead of hearing people tell you that you shouldn't work out, you actually should work out, even though it goes against conflicting theories. It makes you feel better. It helps you move better. And overall, our bodies are just meant to heal in motion. So that kind of ties into today's show anyway. So without further ado, let's welcome to today's show, Brent. Brent, it's a pleasure to have you today.
It's good to be here. Thanks. It's an amazing testament to your resilience that we're having this discussion even, right? So I'm glad that you're able to recover quickly and we're able to talk.
Yeah, me too. I analytics, favorite thing in the entire world. Blood work, favorite thing in the entire world. So this is going to be right up my alley, and we really haven't had anyone with an engineering background talk about a lot of this before. So this would be really cool to see how that all plays a role. We've heard it more from the physician side of it and more from the gym side of it than the engineering side. So without further ado, tell us a little bit about your background in engineering and how that got you to Sage Health.
Yeah, totally. Listen, there's a couple different versions of this story, and it's like anything, right? It's like a bunch of different factors in your life coalesce around one thing, and this one thing has really just become Sage over the past couple of years. I would say, I've been running businesses sort of at the intersection of health and technology and nutrition for the last 25 years. So I've certainly seen what's going on in the universe and how this the whole world works from the business perspective and the health perspective. For 8 years running a company called Metagenics, serving healthcare practitioners that do this for a living. But really what drove me to this was going to see my doctor a couple of years ago, like we all do, and having my blood drawn during the visit. And I was leaving, the doctor said, "Hey, listen, I'll call you if something's wrong." And I just remember like the uncomfortable feeling that I had when he said that, because I'm not looking. Well, certainly I want to know if something's wrong, but that's not the driving force behind sort of the interaction I want to have with my doctor, with my healthcare professional. I want to talk about how I can live my best life for as long as possible, and really we just didn't have the time for that conversation, and so yeah, I walked away. He said, "I'll call you if something's wrong." So obviously we didn't have a chance to review my blood work. A few weeks went by. I didn't get a phone call. So, you're sitting home going, okay, I guess everything's okay. But it's like, I'll just find out. So I picked up the phone, called the practice, got the person at the front desk. And I said, "All right, did my blood work come in?" She said, "Yeah, it's been in for a few weeks." And I said, "Well, what's it say?" She goes, "Well, there's no notes here. So I guess everything's okay." I'm like, did somebody even review it? She's like, "Oh, I'm sure somebody did." So there's just a lot of ambiguity there. Fortunately, she sent me a copy of the results, and there wasn't anything wrong, which is great. But there were a few things that weren't right. There were a few things that weren't perfect. I certainly, I'm about to be 50 years old. My birthday's in a couple of weeks, which is exciting. I certainly don't feel like I did when I was 40 or 30. Getting to the gym's a little bit harder than it was before, and certain things in my body continue to work, but maybe not as well as they could. And so, I was curious at what was really going on. So I spent, a couple days asking Dr. Google, so to speak, about my blood work and throwing stuff into AI. And I realized, okay, well, there's a business opportunity here. There's a problem to solve. Let's help people really deeply understand their blood lab results. Let's help people understand what all these different biomarkers are, because I do think it's a little bit of a black box, right? We tend to look at things in isolation. You'll only look at something if it's sort of abnormal. But there's a lot of things in there that change over time. So it's actually really fun as you can The tool that we built, you can take any blood lab you've ever done. And, I've been doing blood labs. I'm going to be 50 this year. So I've probably got 20 different labs in my history in various EMRs around the world. And I was able to take it and put it together and put it into one place and look at these trends over time. And what you notice is, sure, there's a lot of things that are normal, but there's a lot of things that aren't the same as they were 20 odd years ago. And I think a lot of those are just opportunities to go after. So you have to understand, okay, what is a neutrophil? What is a basophil? What are all the different types of cholesterol that I'm looking at? I certainly asked myself the question too, did the blood panel that my doctor ordered, was it the right blood panel for me? Was it comprehensive enough? Because there were certain things that were missing too, like I didn't see PSA. I think I listened to some radio program with Ben Stiller talking about prostate cancer, and he's a big advocate for early testing for prostate PSA testing. I'd never had one. I'd never had a PSA test, so there were certainly gaps. So you connect all these things together. How do you understand your blood labs? How do you think about optimizing yourself over time? How do you make sure you're getting the blood panels? And out of that, we built Sage Healthspan. So Sage, in its simplest form, is an app on your iPhone, and you can either upload or scan in any blood lab you've ever had. And we use on-device AI, so we're never sending your data to the cloud. We use on-device AI to take all that data, pull it off the page, or pull it out of the PDF, or pull it out of the picture, or whatever, put it in a consolidated form, normalize it over the years. So if you've had blood panels that were done at different labs, sometimes they use different metrics, millimoles per deciliter or grams per liter or whatever it may be. We normalize it, we look at it over time, and then in really plain English, we help you understand what it is. So what are the different biomarkers? What do they mean? What does high mean? What does low mean? And what are some ideas of things that you can do about it? So hopefully it's really clear to understand it. We do have some more advanced features, like if you've done the right things, we'll automatically calculate your biological age. We think that's really fun and interesting. It's a nice composite marker that tells you sort of if you're on track or off track on a lot of different important axes. And then we also have our own proprietary LLM that we will send your data to completely anonymously and completely privately, where we've actually taken some of our favorite functional medicine doctors and got them to build this massive data set dissecting blood panels. So what does low mean? What does high mean? What are some best practices? What is optimal? And so we apply your data to that database and use an LLM to come up with a quick summary using AI of how to best understand your health markers. And one of the most fun things is it'll give you 10 questions that you can ask your doctor. And with the click of a button, you can actually just email those questions to your doctor. So next time you're sitting in front of your doctor looking at your blood panel, you can have that meaningful conversation that I didn't get to have. Because really what we're looking to do is help build those great relationships with your doctor so that you can live your best life. That was a lot of talking, but hopefully that's a brief enough summary for what we're trying to do.
No, it's a good overarching view of what I'm looking for. And now I want to get a little more specific.
Please.
And I think the first question that comes to mind, maybe it's because I'm addicted, is to AI itself and what training level has that AI undergone to really give recommendations and track. So how do you program it to make sure it's accurate as opposed to uploading to ChatGPT, for example?
100%. So the first thing is we're really using our proprietary LLM on a closed data set. So the LLM's not going out there in the ether and pulling God knows what data and trying to apply that information to you. It's pulling really only the best recommendations that we've got from our favorite functional medicine doctors. So we got a bunch of doctors around. We built this massive data set. We know the data is perfectly accurate, and so we're applying your data to that data set, and the AI can't go outside of that walled garden, for lack of a better way to put it. And to your point, we're training all the time. So one of the ways we think about it is sort of every person that participates in Sage and gives us some of their data, we certainly anonymize it, but each piece of data helps the entire data set get better, right? Because we're trying to understand that in a meaningful way. And I would say that's kind of, there's a lot of nuance and subtlety here too, right? Because we can get into the debate between what's a normal level, what's an optimal level. That's a really big discussion. I mean, what is it? 68% of America today has some sort of metabolic dysfunction. And when you're looking at sort of what's a normal biomarker, well, they're just going to take a normalized curve and say, okay, the middle of that curve is what normal is. Well, if 68% of America is metabolically not optimal, let's just say that, that means normal is nowhere near optimal, right? Normal includes that 68% of America. And so, we've spent a lot of time talking with our favorite functional medicine doctors and thinking through, okay, what actually is optimal? And so when our AI is giving you recommendations, it's actually thinking through those recommendations based on, what is the optimal place to be for so many of these biomarkers. So I would say our AI is as good as we can have at this point right now. But certainly it's always getting better, right? Because what gets interesting, especially with biomarkers, is I think we're so used to in medicine today looking at them in isolation. So you're looking at them as a snapshot instead of looking at them over time. And I think, what these AIs have the power to do, and we're in the early days of this, right? But it'll get better and better, is really see those subtle changes that have happened over time and understand that in a more profound way than, most doctors would even have the time to notice on your lab. I also think there's a ton of interplay, which is interesting, between biomarkers, right? So, what is the interplay between your cholesterol and your glucose levels? What is the interplay between this hormone and that hormone? We kind of like to think about it. We spend so much time thinking about, biomarkers in isolation. This biomarker itself is not normal while the others are. But it's more subtle than that, right? We like to think, okay, when you listen to a symphony, you're not just listening to one instrument, you're listening to how all these instruments come together. And certainly the complexity of our biology, I think, requires us to look with that level of nuance at our biomarkers if we're really ever going to think about optimizing. And so it's really Sage starts to open up the door to be able to do that, which is pretty exciting for us.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like your brain's like recommended and optimal. Just to give like quick specific examples, vitamins, for example, there's an RDA recommended daily allowance, and there's an optimal daily allowance, and they're two totally complete different numbers. And then my favorite, I think the most misunderstood, is body temperature. Like an average body temperature of a human being is 98.6, but I remember as a kid, if you take my temperature right now, it's 97.4. Me being
Yep.
healthy. So when my body temperature went to 99, I had a fever, but the nurse would say, if it's not over 100, you don't have a fever. It's like, but I'm dying. Like, I feel like shit.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, and there's so many examples of that. Like, I mean, I
yeah.
probably get more personal than you want to hear, but like, I'm getting into 50 and I go to CrossFit every day, and all my CrossFit buddies that are also 50-ish, right? We're all sitting around going, okay, is it time to start thinking about testosterone? Like, it's a little bit harder to, grow our muscle than it was, earlier on. And, maybe the little bit of fat I carry around my midsection is, a little bit harder to keep at bay, so to speak. So, okay, is now the right time for testosterone? I mean, one of the fortunate things is I do have 25 years of data. And so I've actually never been a person with super high testosterone. My testosterone is usually in the low 400s, but today it's actually still in the low 400s. So probably I'm not a great candidate for TRT. And I think that comes out of, okay, if I were to just look at my testosterone today, I can say I'm very much on the low side of normal. Maybe it's time to start thinking about options. But if I can look at my history and I can look at the changes over time, I've been between, let's call it 412 and 420 for 25 years. So that's also one of the very fortunate things, when you have all this data and you can see it, continuously over time.
Yeah, testosterone was another example because there's such a wide range of where men sit. And then you're taking a snapshot, like you said, of someone's test levels, and that could be a lot lower than what they used to be. And that's why that person feels drowsy, lethargic, and is a good candidate for TRT. So
Or,
I think that's
and
so
have they been
interesting.
fasting, right? Like if you're fasting and all your testosterone's bound, like of course your free testosterone is going to look awful, right? So all of these nuances are so important to understand, right? As you're looking at your blood work. And we think like none of this is rocket science. Like we think, every person out there has the right to understand this. I think for so many years, we've just kind of decided that it's too complex and let this black box exist in medicine. But I mean, I'm sure you have the same experience, right? You bounce up against medicine, little by little, you realize, okay, my health is actually not something that I'm just blessed with or not blessed with. It's something that I can actually try to improve over time. It's a skill I can learn, understanding my health, understanding these biomarkers. These are all skills I can learn. I may not get it all right the first time, but it's like any journey that we're on with whether it be fitness or in business or learning. The skill of health is something we can all get much better at if we apply ourselves to it and we feel some agency and control over our health trajectory. And so I think that's something that's really critical for folks to understand. And I don't think biomarkers are the exception. I think they're inside the realm of what everybody should have a good feeling of. I'm not saying we should all sit at the bar and and know our cholesterol numbers and be able to tell our friends about it. But I can't tell you since I've been at Sage, and it's one of those things. I can't tell you when you start talking to anybody that you meet about what I'm doing here at Sage. Every one of them has a story to be like, well, my AST and my ALT last time I was at the doctor was a little bit high, but I don't know what that means. Well, why? Why live with that uncertainty? Let's figure it out. Let's help you put it together. And I think everybody's got a little bit of a story like that around some of their biomarkers.
Yeah, and you're starting to see more and more people track more biomarkers. Me, for example, personally, I just went ahead and bought an Oura ring, right? So
Oh, you're great. I mean, I'm actually not wearing mine, but it's charging because I just woke up. But I've been using Aura for 10 years. It's awesome, right?
it's 3 weeks in. I wanted to track my sleep. I literally bought right before I tore my chest. So, but
I
I
imagine
was
it's
like,
been
let me
fun to watch
figure
it.
out how to take my sleep into my own hands because I've always been someone who struggled with sleep apnea, and obviously, mine's not being overweight. It's just something I've had my entire life, and it's how can I learn different behaviors to enhance my sleep and make myself better. And there's a bunch of the stuff on there, and I love being in control. And then you take your blood work and you're being in control. And I think the way where AI is headed is it will know a complete picture of somebody and then be able to take all the biomarkers from all these devices and then spit out exactly what's recommended for you, even on a deeper level, which is when you add in genetics to that component. So what are my genes showing that other people's genes aren't showing, whether that's sex or ethnicity, because we all have different biomarkers even inside of that of what's important and what's not important. So it's pretty interesting to look at and how we can take everything all together at once. I mean, my idea for even the personal training side of it is we are building a new app. I mean, I was thinking 10 years from now, but you're already ahead of it, is taking an AI like yours, taking an AI like Aura, plugging that into all the exercises we're doing with people and having a person just say, hey, what do I need to do today to optimize everything based upon my markers? And then it spits out a workout program for, spits out nutrition for them based upon that specific individual and what they're doing. Hey, how am I trending over the last 7 days from all this activity and stuff I've been doing? And it can give them pretty close to accurate data.
Yeah. And it's not just what's best for me, but it's also like what's best for me today. Because what's best for me today could be different than what's best for me a week from now. Like we're big fans of Aura at Sage. Like I said, I've been using it for years, and it just keeps on getting better and better. It's so interesting to look at, sort of correlate. Okay, what am I having great workouts to? What was my heart rate last night? Was my heart rate elevated? What is my recovery score? A lot of that stuff becomes really interesting to think about internally and correlating that. At Sage, one of the things that we deeply believe in is that we have all this data around us, and so much of it is underutilized. And so, it is on our roadmap to add a lot more than just blood to what we're doing at Sage. We're going to actually rolling out urine tests in the next few weeks. We think there's a lot we can tell by looking at your hair, skin, and nails over time, how those things are changing and evolving based on the season. There's a ton of environmental data we can pull. Like I know where your phone knows where you are, which means your phone knows your pollen count every day. It knows the level of pollution in the air every day. It knows a lot of things about what's happening environmentally around you. I can absorb that and understand that. And then certainly we can connect with things like Apple Health or Google Fit or whatever it may be, and any other wearable that you're using, we can ingest that data and again apply that thinking to what's happening inside Sage. We kind of think the future is a little bit of it's a kind of an oxymoron of a concept, but sort of self-administered concierge medicine, where your phone should be the center of your health life and have all of your health data and be able to see the interconnections and patterns in your health data in meaningful ways that really only some of your best doctors can get.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think you're kind of right on the right path with that, is to give everything all in one specific place and really track everything as you're going along. And I think that's so cool that you're headed into the urine part of it, you're headed into the skin part of it. It really adds more of a bigger picture to it. I mean, I think it would be really cool if, like, say you partnered with Aura, you partnered with Ancestry, and now you're getting all of that data
Mm-hmm.
spun through to really give a person's like individual journey of where they should be and what they should be going on as a person. And even just breaking down simple, I want to get to like a little more specific of like what exactly markers and stuff we're looking for inside of blood work, because I think a lot of people don't understand let me rephrase that. I know a lot of people don't understand blood work because I always say, hey, bring your blood work in, let me look at it for you. And they go, you can read that? I was like, do I know absolutely everything on there? No. Do I know 80% of it? Absolutely. Can it give you good recommendations? Absolutely. And we can help integrate this in because, like you said, doctors don't like discussing it. I think it's a time issue more than anything.
Yeah,
I
more
feel
than
like I'm
anything.
always ripping on doctors, but I'm really not. They just don't have time. So,
It's yeah, it's easy to sort of it's the system, right? The system's the problem, not the individuals. I have
exactly.
so many great friends that are amazing doctors, and not one of them got into medicine to only see people for 5 minutes at a time and miss a bunch of stuff in their labs, and have this sort of awful experience that they're enabling. But the system doesn't make it easy, right? You wish the system was almost developed in the days when we all lived in small towns and there was a doctor that was the same doctor from sort of birth to death of everybody in the town and knew what was going on and understood how our social lives and behavior in the town and how our parents interacted with us and what our parents had or whatever. Like they were able to practice comprehensive medicine just by being part of the same community that we lived in. And today it's just impossible for doctors to have that level of access to what's going on, so that they're the instincts that they train and when they study medicine are able to really empower you as an individual to live your best life.
So, I want to ask you specifically what's one or two uh, biomarkers you're looking for inside of blood work? What do you recommend people to say, hey, these are the top one, two, or three results I want you to look at it, I want you to track? Because, I mean, a standard blood panel is huge for most people. It's like 3.5 pages long. So, what are specific ones you're looking at or telling people to look at?
So I would say in two ways, like the if I just think about what are the things that Sage users, what has been the most illuminating for them that we get feedback to say, oh my God, this is happening. One, and then two, like what do we see as most missed by sort of just your annual physical when you're getting, I don't know, somewhere between 22 and 32 biomarkers measured. The three big ones for a man is the first is PSA. I think every man over 35 should get their PSA tested every couple of years. Um, Nobody should die from prostate cancer. The fact that there's still upwards of 40,000 men a year dying from prostate cancer is just an unbelievable tragedy. If you know your PSA and you can stay ahead of it, no one should ever die from that. So that's a big one for men. I would say for men and women, one of the ones that's been very illuminating for a lot of folks is LP little a. So your LP little a, it's a genetic thing. Yeah, if you have high LP little a, likely you have high genetically you have high, you're going to have high cholesterol. And you're not going to be able to see it just at looking at your overall cholesterol numbers. So that's also been super illuminating for folks where they'll get their LPA tested and realize, okay, I'm pretty high. I need to go out and get my calcium score checked. In almost every case where that's happened, the calcium score has been way higher than folks had expected it to be. And they've been able to get on a therapeutic program to optimize them. So LP little a, I think, is an important one. It's one of those you don't have to get tested regularly. You kind of need to get it tested once just so you know, are you genetically sensitive to that? Or are you not genetically sensitive to that? And then, another interesting one we think around cholesterol is your ApoB. Understanding where that sits, that's probably the best biomarker we can look at for where are you in that journey of acquiring atherosclerosis. We're all going to get a little bit the longer we live, right? But where are you on that journey? And I think your ApoB is probably your best biomarker to look at for that. It's not an expensive thing to check, and we'll give you some great insight into where you are, and it's actually not common to get. I would say those are three big ones. On the women's side, I would say a little bit of the tragedy that we think we're seeing, especially as women are getting into sort of their middle ages, late 30s, 40s, is really just they're only looking at one or two hormones, and they're looking at them in isolation. So they'll maybe get an incomplete thyroid panel, or they'll maybe just look at their estrogen without checking their progesterone and testosterone and everything else. So we think, what's critical for most folks is to get comprehensive hormone panels, and especially women as they're getting into their 40s need to be monitoring that very closely so that they can sort of see how that's modulating over time. Those, I would say, are some of the most important ones that folks should be looking at, and those are some of the gaps that we see most often in just your standard annual physical blood test. And I think that's a little bit of the interesting thing about developing, health agency as well, is really saying, okay, my doctor is recommending this panel to me, but I'm actually not even sure why he or she are recommending that panel to me. Are they giving me that panel because that's the panel they give everybody? And do they give it to everybody all the time? Is that the panel that they think is just the most often reimbursed by insurance, and they don't want to have to deal with a call in 6 weeks that says, my insurance doesn't cover this, so why did you test it? I mean, why do doctors pick the panels that they pick? I think more often than not, it has to do with some of those things. It's just the basic standard that they do, and it's what's most often reimbursed so that they don't have to deal with an upset consumer, an upset patient somewhere down the road that they had to cash pay something. So that's what we think is important. I also think testing frequency is important. I do think most of us need a very comprehensive panel at least once a year, and if things aren't in the optimal range, maybe more than once a year. So I do think that's the other thing to be checking on is hey, are you getting your annual checkup? I mean, we all go twice a year to the dentist. We probably go once or twice a year to the optometrist. If we're not getting a comprehensive blood panel at least annually, I think there's a big miss there.
I would even throw it in same time of year annually, because like I just think of silly examples like vitamin D3, right? Your vitamin D levels are going to be way higher in the summer than they are in the winter. So testing that exposure on an annual basis will be huge. You might be more active in one season over the other as well. So I
Absolutely.
really,
I mean, I've never seen anybody north of the Mason-Dixon line that doesn't need to supplement vitamin D. I mean, it's just going to be the case, right? That that's just the way it's going to go.
yeah, I totally agree. I'm lucky enough in the summer I don't need to. I literally live outside. I'm just like, I get as much sun as possible. In the winter, it's impossible.
Oh,
So
totally.
it's 0 degrees outside. You look at it, you go, no.
Yeah, not happening. Not happening. Or you're just too covered up, right? I mean, you're wearing long sleeves or whatever it may be, right? So, yeah. I think just being aware of all these things is so important. Um, and it's certainly something Sage can help you stay ahead of. We're happy to sell you comprehensive panels if you ever want to buy them. Or we'll analyze where you have gaps in your blood work, and we'll just sell you the things that you're missing as well. So, we're happy to make sure that you have the complete picture.
Yeah, and to your point about asking physicians, I have to ask all the time for specific blood work because they want to give you a standard blood panel. And like you said, that's what they're going to get reimbursed on. That's what they're just doing for everybody because they don't want to get a call later. So I always ask, well, can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do this? And then sometimes I get no, but a lot of people also don't know. You can actually go out to those labs directly and pay out of pocket, and it's dirt cheap. You can get a standard blood panel, I think through Quest, which is a local lab by us, for like $10. So that might even be more practical for people if they want to do that every 6 months or they want to do it every quarter, because your insurance might only cover a once a year annual. So you get the opportunity of really being on track of it for not a lot of money to follow through. They're billing
Totally. And
insurance companies a lot higher than you're paying out of pocket for them.
well, and half the battle is knowing what you're missing, first of all, right? So that you're getting something comprehensive, and then two is being able to go out and procure it and get it done. That is one of the things we do at Sage. So we're happy if you just get your annual blood lab done at your doctor and you want to upload that. We'll just tell you where the gaps are that you need to go fill. If you want to do the comprehensive panel through us too, like we offer way reasonable prices. We're actually Quest is one of our partners. So we'll give you better pricing through Sage than you'd get directly with Quest.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's so important. People keep an eye on exactly what's going on and really truly understand. I mean, cholesterol as it itself, I know I bring this up a lot, but I think it's just so important. You look at total cholesterol levels, it's not a good number. And it's something everyone always looks at. My cholesterol's above 200, like I'm unhealthy. And it just doesn't mean anything. And it's hard to explain to people like your total cholesterol's so vague. Like, is it actually causing any damage to your arteries? Is your LDL to HDL ratio super off? Like, who cares about a total cholesterol number? I really want to know what's going on with the other markers to see if it's actually an issue for me, as opposed to just one little basic screenshot of, oh, this is where you're at. So I don't know if that's something you've seen as far as like data coming back, that total cholesterol really doesn't matter. It's more important for the biomarkers you mentioned, plus LDL to HDL ratios.
Yeah, listen, so much of this is in the nuance and in the details, right? I can certainly think of examples that we've had with consumers using Sage where they have a high cholesterol, but they have no issue. I can also think of a bunch of examples on the contrary. They have low cholesterol, but they actually have a pretty big issue that they're not dealing with, right? So you can always think of those things. There's certainly you know, so much of medicine is like, okay, let's, for the first 90% of people that we're seeing, like what is the minimum required thing that you need to understand? That's certainly a piece of information, but it's just such an incomplete piece of information. So I'm like, how do we take the next step and the next step and the next step? And certainly the older you get, and if there's any other risk factors involved, the more detail you have, the more nuance you can understand from your biomarkers, the better off you'll be. You were mentioning ratios. We're a big fan of a bunch of composite markers. That's actually one of the things we do really nicely in Sage as well, is we'll take the data you have, and if there's any composite markers that we can help you evaluate and help you understand, we'll do that math for you, and we'll show you which of the connections you should be looking at to look at these different ratios and these different ways together. I mean, biological age, you can sit around and debate all day long. Is bioage a meaningful tool, a not a meaningful tool? It's certainly something that everybody's curious about. Okay, where do I stand versus my actual age? Am I younger than my actual age? Am I older than my actual age? What is the meaning there? What we think is, listen, if it gets people to dig into their blood work and understand it, we're thrilled. If it's something that they're going to care about, and they're going to care about in such a way that they're going to understand the details of it, we're thrilled. We kind of just see it as yet another composite marker, like one of these ratios that's looking at a bunch of different things, comparing them and contrasting them mathematically, and then you're able to say, okay, if my bio age isn't, I don't know, 10 years below my actual age, why not? If my bio age is over my actual age, okay, why or why not? And then there's usually a handful of things in your blood work that you can see really aren't optimal. And if that's the journey you go on to find that, I'm thrilled. I don't actually care how people get to the destination, as long as they're getting to the destination, they're getting involved in their blood work, and they care about what they're doing.
What do you think the next step of this is, for one, us as a society, and two, just for you guys in general?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think we kind of talked about it earlier. A lot of this is really, the more we're getting our data centralized into one place, and the easier that we can use these AI tools to activate against multiple pieces of data and compare and contrast them in meaningful ways, the better off we'll be. I also think we can make the whole lab testing process so much simpler. We're gonna come out later this year with an at-home test process, so that folks can actually just buy a little kit, draw themselves a little tiny vial of blood painlessly out of their arm, send it into their lab, and not have to leave the comfort of their home. Certainly you may have a great experience at your local Quest. I don't mean to diss on Quest, but I've had a multitude of experiences at Quest. Some of them have been wonderful. Some of them have been atrocious. I do think the service model at a lot of these labs is not ideal. And I do think, half the battle is getting people to just get the test done, right? Like, let's get the data out of you. Let's understand it. Like, that's usually the first hurdle to overcome. I imagine it's a little bit for you too. It's like, how do I just get people into the gym? If I can get them into the gym, I can get them to take that first step. I can get them to go somewhere else. So I think there's a lot of parallels to that. I mean, I don't know what percent of people in America today are actually regular gym users. I think it's got to be probably a low single digit number, right? So how do you get that number? I mean, if exercise is the best longevity drug out there, how are we going to get more and more people into the gym is a big question. And I think we're asking ourselves the same question about biomarkers and blood work. Like, how do we get more and more people engaged in their blood work? How do we get more and more people doing these sorts of things regularly? Because there's so many things that people are sick from or dying from today in America, that if they were ahead of this in the right way, they wouldn't have the problems that they're having. And with so many of these things, like, okay, there may not be that many points of no return. There certainly are points of no return that if you get to them, you can't go backwards. But so many of these things, the earlier you start identifying issues or weaknesses, the easier it is to modulate your behavior so you can control that over time, right? Like, so many things in the world, the effect of compounding is astounding. Whether it's your level of fitness, it's also true in your biomarkers. Compounding is astounding, and that goes in both directions. You can compound towards the worse, and you can compound towards the better. And so it's showing up every day, starting early, and sticking with it for the long term. And that's really what's going to change the trajectory of health, I think, in this country.
I think it's interesting. You even look at stats, like you mentioned before. It's rarer to have a six pack than it is to be a millionaire. Like, think about that for a second. After the age of 30, you're easier to be a millionaire just to have a six pack. One is definitely easier than the other. I think the six pack's easier than the millionaire, but it just shows how little people even try for it. I mean, take that to what's going to be in the next 10 or 15 years. It's probably going to be rarer to, like, even be a normal blood work, like a blood panel, or just be your biological age. It's just the way trends are going. It's pretty astounding that people just don't, more people are joining gyms, but we're getting less healthier, and it's something has to fix it. I think that really comes to the education component, which is why I'm a big believer in one, this show, one of the things you're doing, and what we're doing as a company as itself is educating people with what to do. I love all the pushes that's going on politically, that's coming even on a local level, where people are just getting more involved and understanding what I need to do, how I need to do, what do these certain things mean, instead of blindly trusting people that aren't an authority in their field. Just silly examples like a doctor. I still just, this bothers me so much, so I keep bringing it up. But it feels like every week I have a client telling me the doctor said to stop working out. And it's just like, why? And they just give you the reason. It's just like, no, actually, research shows the exact opposite. You should be working out. So the doctor, I feel like at least some, they're so afraid of getting sued, or they just don't have enough time to really work with the people. They just say, oh, just cease everything. And it's sad what's going on. I just had a woman today that has lymphedema, and her doctor said, quit your gym, but go do PT. And he's just assuming, I guess, we're just this dirty, gross gym. And it's like, no, like we're doing way more than physical therapy does in-house with training and education. And just, that's the first thought, is just quit your gym. No, like it's so hard for this woman to get here. Now she's going to quit, and it's going to take her 3.5 years to get back. So you're just doing her a disservice.
Yeah.
Or I had a client even 3 days ago who told us that we were recommending she eats, I think it was like 1,800 calories a day. And she's like, well, I asked my doctor. He said to only eat 500 calories a day. And I was like, 500 calories a day is anorexia. Like, that's not healthy in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, but my doctor knows more than you. It's like, yeah, maybe about like other things, but not this, right? Like, I'm not going to tell you that the best cure for cancer is this essential oil. I'm going to go say like, no, go to an oncologist, like get chemo and do whatever the hell they say. Like, that's the avenue to go. So it's really just understanding who you're talking to and gathering information, taking an AI, which is totally unbiased, right? And having it dive through your blood panels and giving you specific recommendations and markers for an individual. It's just going to empower the person with more education to really make those right choices, because they'll start seeing those trends like, oh, what I'm doing is right. So now we had the positive reinforcement factor back in. Hey, I'm doing this, I'm getting healthier. I'm doing this, I'm getting healthier. And hopefully that spirals us into a push to really now make the average person super healthy, lower all of our biological rates, take the obesity rate from 67% to back when it was like 45 years ago to 5-10%. So I think information is power more than anything in the entire world.
Yeah. The way we always talk about it at Sage too is like, we can't succeed, and it's true of kind of everybody in healthcare. We can't succeed unless people feel a sense of health agency, feel like they can control their health trajectory, and realize it's like all things. It's not something you have and you don't have, and there's also not a lot of quick wins. You kind of got to put in the hard work here. So it's not something you can fix overnight. Compounding matters. Like, compounding is probably the most important skill I think anybody can learn, whether it's finance, fitness, health, you name it. It's how to get yourself on the right trajectory, how to make those little decisions every single day that over time build into great health. And so I think the language we use internally, and God only knows if it's right, but how do you create a sense of health agency? How do you help people feel like they have control over their health future? They have that health destiny. That's a huge first step. I do think like we had a culture, and we have still probably a predominant culture, where health is something you either have or you don't have. And we sort of outsource monitoring that I don't know, that switch to a doctor. And the reality is it's a continuum. Health is something that you can improve over time. You can improve how healthy you are by learning new health skills. One of the critical health skills we think is understanding your data. And so, you bring up education, right? That's how you acquire those skills. You acquire those skills through great education and through thinking about things in the right way. We think there's, it's like so many things, right? If the world just got 8 hours of great sleep, went to the gym 4 or 5 times a week, kept themselves into calorie balance, had healthy relationships, and kind of stayed away from all the bad crap, the whole health trajectory of the world would be radically different. And so, we're focused on those core 5 things. We're focused on helping people feel a sense of agency over each one of those pillars. And if they do, we think they're going to be on the right path for the long term. They're going to be on the path where, okay, they're starting to make the right little decisions every day that lead to the great health outcomes over the long term. And so I think if people can get that mindset shift, think about health as a skill, think about learning and building those skills over time, and really stick with it for the long term, understand sort of what is the minimum viable amount of effort they need to put in to get on the path and stay on the path. I mean, it's, again, to use the dumb finance quote, sort of the biggest sins in the world, right, is when you interfere with compounding. It's kind of what annoys me about some of the stories you tell about doctors saying to their patient, don't go to the gym. Well, you just got in the way of compounding. They actually were already on a journey that was starting. And anything that interferes with compounding, that interferes with the trajectory, the positive health trajectory that you may be on, is just, it's one of the sacrileges of the industry that you see, unfortunately.
Yeah. I really, really couldn't agree more. It just, everyone has to get on the same page. And that's why I am a huge component, as scary as it may be. And maybe this is Terminator. Like, you have an AI that knows everything about who you are, what you do, all your blood work, all compounded. And then you have someone to just ask, hey, give me what to make efficient today. And it just spits everything out. Or run this for me, and it runs that for you. And it's just easy to have all that information together. Now I go to the doctor and say, hey, pull up all my blood work for the last 20 years, showed specific trends. I'm having pain, ABC, there's any correlation. And then the AI shows the doctor absolutely everything about who you are an individual. And then the doctor can ask the AI specific questions about you, because it's like the funny example of when we get physical therapy clients coming over, and it's like, what are you doing at PT? The thing. And he's like, okay, cool. Like, that's so unhelpful. So it's just being able to talk to someone who really understands like the language that the doctor wants to hear, so the AI can do that for the person because it knows everything about them. And going back, maybe that'll be the end of humanity if it learns all that, or maybe it will be the best thing in the entire world.
Yeah,
Who knows?
I mean, it's to me, it's like again, we think about it as sort of the power of personalization, right? It's like, if I can dial in the best plan for you, I'm gonna hopefully make it easier than it would have otherwise been for you to get on that journey and stay on that journey. And that's really what it's all about. Like, whether it's, I don't know what a silly example would be, but the more that we can personalize your program, the more that we can personalize what's right for you and help you understand why that's the case, we think the easier it is to make the right decisions or the better decisions and be on the better trajectory. I guess like the dumb example, right, is that you can think about, I don't know, well, I don't want to go down that road, but there's so many different examples where, like, if I can understand a few things about your genetic profile, a few things about your biomarkers, and a few things about your current set of daily habits, I think it's a lot easier for me to bake in those moments in your day where you can actually start that process of compounding and developing those health skills and getting on that trajectory that's going to learn those health skills.
The dumb example would be, I'm at a party. Hey, can I eat this piece of cake, or is it going to screw my blood work up? And it goes, okay, you've hit A, B, C, D. You're doing great. You can afford to eat that piece of cake. It's fine. So
yeah. I mean, listen, the example I was going to give is like, okay, let's say you're, I don't know, you're of Eastern European descent. So you have a genetic profile of folks that spent most of their life in sort of, I don't know, the North or whatever, versus somebody that, has the genetic profile of someone that was in the Mediterranean. So why is somebody from the North overweight? Well, maybe it's because they're eating like a Mediterranean rather than eating like a Viking. I mean, I don't know what the example might be, but those things are nice because I think what they do is, and if you can understand and personalize to that, okay, why am I struggling with my diet? I'm struggling with my diet because I'm not making the decisions that are ideal for my body type. If folks don't understand that, I think they feel really helpless about, well, I didn't realize I was making the wrong decision, and I don't know how to make a better decision. And if you're in that moment of helplessness, if you're the victim to your genetics, if you're the victim to the system for whatever that may be, you're not going to be on that path towards a healthier and a better journey. That was it's a little bit of a silly example, but I think it's meaningful in the sense that, yeah, it's about that empowerment and that engagement. I think, it would be nice if my phone kicked me every time my friends decided to buy me a beer. That's one way to go. I think that's maybe more the Terminator way to go. I think the other way to go is, okay, how well do I metabolize alcohol? What are the pros and cons of having one or two drinks a week or not with my friends? does the social benefit outweigh the physical issues that could come from trying to metabolize alcohol? Like, help me sort of weigh the pros and cons in that, and help me understand, okay, what is the best decision for me? Maybe I can metabolize a couple drinks a week, and that's actually better for me, for my overall health and function, to have those social moments with my colleagues than avoiding it. Than the benefit I would get from not having those couple of drinks. I don't know the answer to that question, but I think that's the level of subtlety and nuance that if we can start uncovering that, it's
right?
fun.
Because like Asian genetics, as an example, don't metabolize alcohol well, which is why they're most likely to get alcohol poisoning. It's just genetic in and of its nature. While you look at people from Western European, like Ireland, for example, really good at metabolizing alcohol, but on the flip side of that, also have super high addiction issues. So it's you're weighing in different pros and cons of how our genes play. The example you're using about food, fiber, for example, is the best way to keep your blood sugar in check, eating high amounts of fiber. And it's something I'm preaching for years. But what I've learned with my own personal body and how I metabolize food is the more fiber I had, the more my IBS flared, the more it was painful to go into the bathroom in the morning, like severe pain. So I took my diet and I went on a low fiber diet. And I started only really consuming meat products, tied in with some minor fruits and vegetables just to get some pre and probiotics in my gut. And the pain went away. I've had normal bowel movements. It's like that general knowledge for the general population of focusing on eating high fiber is great, but there's certain individuals that don't digest fiber that well, whether that's insoluble or soluble fiber, and therefore should eat lower amounts of it, even though it might be healthier to eat higher amounts of fiber.
Yeah, and a lot of it too is understanding sort of how that fits into your overall health picture, right? So fiber is a really fun one. I'm certainly not a fiber expert, but I can imagine a bunch of things, right? Where it's like, okay, are you taking fiber because you actually want it to absorb some cholesterol in your GI tract before it gets to your bloodstream? So it's about cholesterol reduction. Great. I'm sure there's the right type of fiber for it. I think you brought it up. Is it soluble? Is it insoluble? Are you just trying to be regular? Are there other things I can be doing to be regular? Like if am I just trying to maintain a healthy microbiome ecology in my system, right? I mean, can I do that with a few resistant starches rather than going down some of the hardcore fiber routes, right? So I think like how you help individuals make those decisions, they can certainly do it by feeling, right? You can certainly go on an elimination diet and add little things back in, and then which makes you feel the best. I think that's probably more onerous than most individuals are willing to go down.
That diet for that is the most miserable thing to do in the entire world, and I've failed almost every time I've tried to do it, and so have most people. So being able to get an exact genetic marker, but to do it prior is the right decision.
100%. And, a lot of it too is, okay, like, does it change based on the seasons? Does it change based on other things? Like, should my diet be following, I don't know, like wherever my genetics said I should be from? What are the fruit and vegetables? What is in season when? Like, is that what my ideal diet should be? Again, I don't think we know the answer to any of these questions. There isn't a perfect diet. I think the perfect diet is the one that makes you feel great, that you can stay on for the long term. And that keeps you in calorie balance, right? That's certainly what we think the best diet is. I'm not an advocate for one type of diet over another, but I think the most meaningful thing is like, how can I find the diet that's best for you? How can I find the diet that suits your genetic profile, your biomarkers, that's helping you achieve your optimization goals that you can actually stick with every day? If we can get all those components put together, I think we have a win. And so those are the types of things we think about over time.
Yeah, I really couldn't agree more. I think it's so important to get an idea of how your body moves, functions, works, how you digest certain things. And I think what makes this harder is being an American, right? Because you have now genetic markers from all over the place. Like I have half my family is Sicilian and the other half is English. It's like, talk about two polar opposite genetic profiles and just trying to figure out, okay, can I digest more? My body's just totally confused.
Well, you just get to drink all the beer you want and eat all the pasta you want. Isn't that what that means? You get the best of both.
Hey man, I do great with carbs. Let me tell you.
Yeah. But no, I mean, listen, it's fun to imagine where we can go with all this too. But yeah, I think, the deeper that we can personalize this, the more that we can make it just easier on folks to stay with for the long term, the better off they're all going to be, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. But Brent, I do want to wrap the show up. So I'm going to ask you the final two questions I ask everybody. The first one is, if you were to summarize this episode in one or two sentences, what would be your take home message?
Compounding matters, right? Make the little decisions every day for your health trajectory that makes sense, and get a sense of health agency from wherever you can. We certainly hope Sage provides some of that for individuals. So the more that you can feel a sense that you're in control of your health trajectory, that you understand your biomarkers, that you understand what's happening inside your body, we certainly think you're on the best chance of having a long, healthy life.
Love that. And the second question, how can people find you, get a hold of you, and learn more about Sage?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest, we're Sage Healthspan everywhere. It's online at sagehealthspan.com. All of our social media at Sage Healthspan. Download the app, try it out. We'd love your feedback. We're in the early days of where we are as a business, so we'd love your feedback. If there's certain things you see that you love, let us know. If there's certain things you see you don't love, let us know. We're trying to make it right for folks. It's free to get started. You can upload 100 labs for nothing, and we'll give you a free analysis of everything that you have. And then if you want to go further on the journey with us, we'd be thrilled to go down it with you.
Brent, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you guys for listening to this week's episode of Health Fitness Redefined. Don't forget, subscribe. It's the only way the show grows. We really appreciate it. As you know, we don't run ads or anything else like that. So share with a friend. If you're not following, please click that follow button. It means the world on the analytics. And don't forget, fitness is medicine. Until next time. Thank you guys for listening to this week's episode of Health Fitness Redefined. Please don't forget to subscribe and share the show with a friend, with a loved one, for those that need to hear it. And ultimately, don't forget, fitness is medicine. I'll see you next time.